All right, welcome everybody who's in already. I see some people are still joining, but let's kick it off. We have a full program. Welcome to today's webinar. I'm your host, Sjoerd Alkema, and we're going to talk about something that's essential in every migration, ensuring compliance and accuracy. And we do that through reporting and audit trails, and we're going to talk about that in this webinar extensively. I have for that with me one of our experts. The expert today is Fungai. Fungai, maybe you can introduce yourself and tell a little bit more about yourself.
Okay, thanks, Stuart. So my name is Fungai. I am a data migration engineer with Zedio, and it's my role to help clients migrate from one system to another. So I'm familiar with the entire ETL process of a data migration, as well as the reporting and compliance that come with that. And that's what we're going to be discussing today. So I'm glad to be here.
Yes, thank you for being here. And before we go on, we are here in the beautiful Hilversum in the Netherlands. Maybe to see if the chat is working, people who are in can share where they dialing in from. Because I think we have quite an international audience. And also, if you have any questions during the webinar, during the session, feel free to put them in the chat at any time. I see someone from Noordwijk. That's close to my home. It's very nice. Welcome. But put questions in the chat. We'll try to get to them while we are at it. But if we don't have time, we'll wait to the end, or even send you an email with the right response afterwards. But don't be shy, just share. So we'll have 30 minutes. And other than that, let's get started. I know I asked you, Fungai, to join me in this fourth Media Experts webinar. I didn't have a topic yet, and you came with this topic, which makes a lot of sense because I think it's one of the key things in every migration. So what made you choose this topic?
So I think a question that a lot of people have is, how do you know when you've successfully completed a migration project? And how do you know that you've done it properly? And I think reporting and compliance play a big role in that, right? It serves as validation that we're doing the correct thing. And it also provides us with an audit trail to keep track of the decisions that were made and how those decisions affected the migration. So I think I wanted to discuss it with you because I think reporting and compliance contributes to how you plan and organize and lead and control a project.
Yeah.
So like you said, I think it is one of the most important parts of a data migration project. So that's why I wanted to discuss it with you.
Yeah. And that's great. I didn't think of it yet, so it's very nice that I think of it all the time, but not as a topic in this webinar. Yeah. And we've been dealing with it, of course, already for 20 years. We're in the migration business already for 20 years, so it's always on our mind, but not so much for maybe our audience. So it's really great to talk about it. So what I wanted to share also for you to talk about is an overview of how we set it up. So a typical migration flows through an ETL process, and where is all that reporting that makes sure you can be compliant and you can be sure that your migration is complete. And then we'll dive also into some examples and other things.
Yeah.
And maybe Yashi can, in the meantime, ask our next room to be a bit more silent, but that's something internal. Then let me share my screen. So before we go into the actual reporting, I wanted to show you a little bit about our platform and the ETL process that we always go through. So it's always extract, transform, and load. And we think it's also important to discover data and to analyze data before we do a migration, of course. So that's also part of that flow. And we do that with our platform where we extract all data. We store everything in the content store, and that's where all the reporting runs on as well, continuously, right? So you see that bar here, reporting, it is a continuous process. And at the end of every migration, we always have this nice package. I always see it as a package. We have the migration audit trail.
Yeah.
We can hand it over and say,
Yeah.
this is your audit trail. This says everything about your migration. You can be sure about everything. And that's everything is tracked also. And to show that a little bit more detail in also a more project approach in every step of the migration we go through, we have another slide, and maybe you can talk about that a little bit because it ties into some of the reports you're going to show as well.
Okay. Okay, so this is a diagram that shows what a compliant migration process looks like from start to finish. And the first step is installation and configuration, which is where we install the migration tooling and software, right? We don't really expect much to go wrong there, but we know that after we've done the installation, we have to do an extraction. So one of the things we do is we produce a connection report, which gives us an insight into how strong the connection to the source system is and whether or not it can handle the load that we're going to put it under. And we also produce a performance report, which contains a lot of key details about the migration environment. We look at the hardware and software specifications of the migration service to make sure that they meet our requirements. We also try to anticipate how the server is going to perform when we do the extraction to make sure that everything runs smoothly. Yeah. So yeah, we produce those reports right at the beginning of the migration project, just to make sure that everything is in order before we start. And then, the next step after that is the extraction, of course, which is where we extract the data from the source system and place it into the content store that you just mentioned.
Yeah.
And once the extraction is complete, we have to validate that A, we extracted everything that was in scope for the project, and B, that the data integrity was maintained during the extraction process. So we produce an extraction report as part of the validation process for extraction.
That's the first step of the migration audit trail, right? So it starts with the extract, and then we go into analysis. Maybe we speed up this a little bit.
Yeah.
We go into the analysis. We have all kinds of analysis reports.
Yeah.
We go into selection of mapping. We have all kinds of reports, but that's more agile together with the customer.
Yeah.
But then when it comes down to audit trail, the transformation report is very important because we want to be sure that that it's logged. What happens to the data? What kind of transformation is applied to your document, to your data object? So that's the next step in the migration audit trail.
Yeah.
And then we move on into import yeah, we have the option to have a content integrity report. It's on the hash.
Yeah.
I know we're not always doing it because also of the performance, and sometimes you just know enough by having the list and comparing this and knowing it's everything, but it can be done if you're unsure about the integrity, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry about that's taking over, but we're a bit short and have a big program. So I just wanted to ask you these reports. I mean, they're written down here, but we have different options, right? In showing them, in creating them, in reporting notes. Can you share a little bit more about that and your experience with the customers you recently used these?
Yeah. So there are different ways in which we produce reports. We can produce reports in Excel. We can produce reports using Zilio Insights, which is a Zilio tool that we use for data analysis and reporting. We can also produce reports, or we can send the data to an external system, like an external business intelligence system, for one of our clients, and then they can produce the reports in the way that they would like to see them. So we're very flexible with regards to how we produce these reports. The data that's inside of them, as well as the format that we present them in, is completely customizable. So we can do it in so many different ways.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me stop sharing. I think this is, or I know this is one of the key. This is one of the key features of our platform, right? That flexibility. So making sure you log everything, you always have all the data, but the way you report out. Yeah, it can be different ways. We use insights that we use a lot to do analysis, but also to report on. on these kinds of topics, but many times it's also an Excel report, right?
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
And I have an example
Okay.
of an Excel report that I could share. Let's just give me a second. Okay. All right. So this is an example of a report that we produced to validate a successful import into a target system. And I've anonymized a lot of the names just for the sake of privacy, but the idea is we can see exactly which files and folders that we migrated into a target system. And if, for whatever reason, something wasn't migrated successfully, we also have a column that describes why that particular file wasn't migrated. And so then from there, we can start to debug and sort of analyze why we didn't migrate everything or what went wrong. So, and again, this is part of the audit trail, like you mentioned. These reports are all kept as part of the history for a data migration project. And we also have a column at the end, which we use for comparison. It's called compare. And the idea there is we want to see if what we've migrated meets what the client expects from us. And so if the migration was successful and if the client has the same information we have, then we can see the ID of the file or folder that we migrated in the comparison column. So that's just another way that we can quickly verify if everything went the way that it was supposed to. And this is just one example of many reports that we can produce during a data migration project. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is all in that central database we always have with every migration.
Yeah.
And this looks pretty straightforward and easy, but it's of course also about the connector that gets that information back from the system and processes that and stores it in the database so it's also our compliant migration approach is also making sure that we gather all the data that we need to prove that or to be able to track every step of the way and get every reason of failure back so that we can act upon it, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And maybe just to add on to that, I actually have ZO4 open, which is our data migration tool.
Okay. Yeah.
And software. And as you mentioned before, in order to produce these reports, we have to run flows inside of our migration software. And we have accelerators, which are basically, they are pre-written programs that run to produce these reports, and then you can customize them according to how you want the report to look. This is just an example of an extraction report accelerator that we run in order to produce extraction reports.
Yeah, maybe one step back because we didn't really touch on that, but this is our Xilio platform where we run migrations with, but also you can create integrations with, and it's a low-code environment with a lot of pre-built handy things that come in handy with the migration. We call them accelerators, right?
Yeah.
And of course, a lot of connectors to all the different systems, but that's all part of this platform. And the one you have now is a reporting accelerator.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, the idea is these accelerators, as you mentioned, they're there to sort of speeden up the process. And after you run an accelerator, after having customized the variables, then you get an extraction report. And you check it. If it meets your expectations, then you save it. And if it doesn't, then you come back to the accelerator, tweak a few more variables, and run it again. So that's how we generate these reports that then become part of the audit trail for a data migration project.
Yeah. And a question. So sometimes we have clients that are not sure what is in the source, right? So then that extraction report, you have an idea, so you know that it's not far off, but basically then you need to prove that there weren't any errors, that you did the right thing in extracting, and that is then your starting point. That's then the truth, right? Of what is in your migration. So, okay. And do we have that often, or do we check with other reports about the completeness, or what happens there?
So usually, before we start a migration project, the client already knows how much data they have.
Okay.
And so we can use Zilio Insights to ingest the data and check the size against what the client expects to have. And if we find a match there, then that's usually the first sign that we've extracted everything successfully. But we also go a step further by showing in Insights the different dashboards and the data that we have to validate. So to answer your question, that's how we normally start by validating an extraction. Yeah.
And if you're sure about the process and about connector and you don't get any errors, then of course you're sure about scope, then basically you're sure about the extraction and that is the total set of data you extracted.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything about this flow you have opened, the Excel report?
I think not much else from here,
okay.
Because we've just shown an example of a report, right? And how we generate that report inside of ZO4. Yeah. But the point is we do the entire migration inside of ZO4, right? So that's just an extraction report. But
this is just one part,
So we do the transformations in there. We also do the loading into SharePoint or any other target system in there as well.
And maybe to get an idea, I mean, if you're a customer and you use Xilio, or if you're a partner, you get all these accelerators, of course. And say you need you have another column that you want in that report. There's some data point that you just want as part of all those records. How complicated is that, or how not complicated is that to change that in the flow, basically to get some different output in that Excel?
So when it comes to reporting, it's not difficult at all to make changes to the columns that you'll see in an Excel report, right? It's it's not that difficult as long as you know what the field is and you know where you want that field to go in the report, then it's quite easy to adjust that. But if you want to perform transformations, if you actually want to, make sure that the data is compliant to the target system. If you want to make sure, for example, that if you're migrating to SharePoint, you don't have any long file paths or file names, or that your versions are being transformed properly, then that requires a certain level of technical ability, but it's something that anyone can learn as long as you have the right training.
Yeah. Of course, you need to understand how to work with the platform, but it's flexible, right? You can do anything, and that's the strength of it. We're making it as easy as possible. But if you have a big tool, then you also need to understand how to work with it, right?
And we have documentation as well.
Sure.
Really comprehensive documentation on ZO4 and how it works, and we also have training material as well for our partners who want to use ZO4. So that helps to sort of make it the learning journey a lot easier and a lot smoother as well.
Great. So let me ask the audience, are there any questions at this point? Anything you want to ask Fungi, or anything you've missed you want to be sure of we talk about? Nothing at this point. Okay, then we move on. Let me look a little bit into the script. So we had we talked about the Excel report accelerator, and we talked about the reporting throughout the migration process. But if you talk about being compliant, right, then it doesn't stop at the end. I mean, for a migration it stops after the migration is done. But what we get a lot with our customers, and we see also our partners asking about that is, okay, you've got this whole compliant migration process, reporting throughout that whole process. We're sure that once we have delivered it into SharePoint, that we know exactly what it is. But then we go loose again, right? So it doesn't stop there. So that monitoring that we have throughout the process, through insights and through and the reporting we have to reporting, kind of took that into the target system, which is often, of course, Microsoft 365 or SharePoint. and we built something to do that. And I think it would make sense also to show that because we have time. I didn't know if we were gonna make it, but we did. So I know you have it. We call it content care.
Yes.
Maybe you can show a little bit about it.
Yes, I can.
And it goes beyond compliant, right? It goes. It's also just making sure that all that logic that you applied, those business rules you created. So maybe you had a rule that you don't want any PST files or TXT files. I don't know. I'm making it up here in your SharePoint environment. Then you someone's joining. Then you want to probably make sure that once you have migrated, that stays the same. So there we have all kinds of reporting possibilities, so that you can check that that people do stay within the rules of the new platform.
Yeah, exactly. I think just to add on to what you said, content care is there to help our clients maintain order in their target environment. In this case, that's SharePoint, right?
Yeah.
You want to make sure that after maybe years and years of having your data in a particular place, not very well organized, not very compliant, that once you make the effort to migrate to SharePoint and everything is compliant, that it stays that way. And SharePoint is one of the, Content Care is the product that we developed to try and help our clients maintain that order, right? And so what we're seeing now is the user adoption screen. This is it's a dashboard which has a lot of different metrics that help to gauge the level of user adoption in SharePoint so that you can tailor your adoption strategies accordingly. And we don't have a lot of time left, so I'm not going to go through every single visualization, but the idea behind this is to gauge how well the users have adopted the platform. So this would be something useful to look at maybe 6 months to a year after migrating to SharePoint, is to come and have a look to see how your users are behaving, if they're enjoying using the platform or not. And in terms of visualizations, we have, for example, the number of active users per day. And this can be really useful just to see, again, just to measure and gauge the level of user adoption. And also it helps with regards to resource planning, right? If you have a lot of users, more than you expected, then maybe you want to upgrade your resources to accommodate everybody. Or if you have a low user adoption or a low number of active users per day, then maybe you want to downgrade and save resources.
Yeah, and I think one of the strengths here also is that you can filter on many things, including, for instance, a site or a subsite of a certain department. So you can check if you have a phased implementation or you've had a rollout and you know that finance isn't too happy because they want their Excels on a file share. I don't know.
Yeah.
Then you can filter down and compare between different departments. And I think, yeah, it just allows you to go through the data, so you don't need to really focus on these dashboards while they're there, but you can do basically anything, right, with the data.
Yeah, that's very true. So everything we see also is very customizable, right? This is what we're showing, but we can generate pretty much anything with the data that we have. So we can make this very, very specific to the client use case. But this is just an example of what we thought would be interesting. And then we can move on to content growth as well, which seeks to measure how well the content is growing or how much the content is growing on SharePoint over time. And again, you have a number of different interesting metrics to look at. If we take the main operations trend as an example, this shows the top 15 operations over time. And what's interesting about this is, you know, we see that downloaded files are really high. And that's interesting because we know that in SharePoint, you can create and share
source for. Yeah,
exactly, without having to download anything. So as soon as you see this already, you should be asking yourself why this is happening. Right?
Yeah, so this could trigger a training or adoption.
Exactly. Exactly, because maybe it points to users not knowing how to share on the platform. So they're downloading it first and then emailing it to each other.
Yeah, exactly.
So then you can begin to investigate why that's the case. And again, this is just an example of some of the the metrics that we can generate.
Yeah.
And we also have collaboration efficiency, where we try to see how well the users are collaborating with each other on the platform.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things we do is we get the names of frequently modified files, and these are probably the most interesting documents or files on the platform, right? Again, these are just this is sample data.
And you can filter out OneNote. I see now it's OneNote, but maybe you want just documents and PowerPoints, right? For certain departments.
Yeah.
But this is just all data. But
yeah. So once you find something that's frequently modified, you can analyze it to see what people find so interesting about it, or what is it that forces people to collaborate on that document. And then you can replicate that in all the other content in SharePoint to try and boost, again, the user adoption or to increase collaboration.
Yeah, or at least identify the users that are really collaborating and take them as key users and try to extend that into the organization. Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah. So, and then we have compliance as well, which you can see is in progress in brackets.
Right.
So I'm not going to share that today, but it is under development and we hope to have that finished soon.
Great.
Yeah. So that's just an example of how content care works and what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, and I see you can target site, asks Andrew. Can you target multiple sites? So can you filter and say, I want this site, and this site to show the dashboards on? I guess that's possible.
Yeah, you can. So you can show the data at just the highest level, which is the entire SharePoint landscape, right? But you can also zero in on specific sites and specific users as well. But what we do,
but also multiple sites. You can just check multiple sites.
Yes, you can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, I think the vision of this product was to stay in control after you migrated, right? Stay in control of your SharePoint environment. Don't throw away all that thinking that you did around the migration. And next to that, also be flexible in what you want, or give our customers the ability to define their own reports that work for them. Because even though we think, I mean, we're all a little bit special, right, in how we use SharePoint and what kind of insights that we would want. So it's really important that you have that flexibility as well. That's what we think, at least.
I agree. And just to add on, I think different clients have different reasons for migrating to the different source systems, right? And so I think one of the benefits of the flexibility that we have in terms of how we report on these data migrations is we can cater to the client's specific need, right? We can pay attention to what's important for them. And I think that's just worth mentioning, considering the fact that, we are discussing reporting and compliance. We can address your specific pain points.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Good. That's a good one to close with, I think. I saw Andrew was typing. I don't know if you still have a question. If so, feel free. All good. Thank you for the question, and thank you all for joining. I think we covered quite a lot. I hope it was helpful. If you do have anything else you want to ask us or discuss, then can't do it in this session anymore because we're closing this and we keep it really on 30 minutes. But feel free to reach out always, and then me or Fungai will get in touch with you, and we'll see where that goes. So thank you all. Fungai, thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
And we'll see you all the next time, hopefully. Bye-bye.
Bye.